What up? It's Wall Street, back again to talk to you all, you fine people. And I appreciate you tuning in and listening. And today I want to talk about the Portland Trailblazers, who I've not talked about a lot on this channel, mainly because they have been rather mediocre. And the biggest thing that stands out to me, at least this season, is that they seem to lack an identity, right? And this is a problem that some other teams in the league have as well. I would say the Chicago Bulls, who are basically right next to the Trailblazers in the overall standings, they also have that problem, where it's like you don't really know what, like you have some good players, but you don't really know how you're playing. You don't really know what you're trying to do. You don't really know what your future holds either. But I do think Portland has some good pieces that they can work with going forward, and I think they have potential to be a good team like next couple of years. I just don't know. I don't know how that's going to happen and how quickly it's going to happen, right? So let's start from the top, right? So their leading scorer right now is Anthony Simons. I'm a big fan of Anthony Simons. 19.3 points per game, 63 games so far this season, and he has started all of them. Shaedon Sharpe is right behind him at 17.5 points per game. Has played 59 games this season, started 39 of them. And then Deni Avdija has played 61 games, 43 starts, 15.3 points per game. So I think like at the top right there, those are some good players, right? Like they all have, potential. Deni Avdija obviously used to be on the Wizards, and I'm a huge Wizards fan. So I think that was an interesting trade. I think they were expecting him to be a little bit better so far this season. He's obviously still improved over last season, and last season was a big jump for him from the season prior. So I think he's got potential. I just don't know if he's going to hit that ceiling that they want him to. But the good thing for them is that Deni Avdija's contract is structured very nicely for his progression. So what I mean by that is he has a front-loaded contract, which means he's getting paid more in the earlier years of his term than he is in the later years, right? So, and he's on a pretty like cap-friendly contract too. He's getting paid $15.6 million this season, and then it descends every year until it expires in the 27-28 season. In the last year of his deal, he's going to be making $11.8 million, which still, again, is a lot of money. But in terms of cap space and where the overall cap is going to be at that time, if he continues to progress every single year, that's going to be a steal of a deal, right? So it does give them a lot of flexibility. The only other people that are under contract on the team in 27-28 are Jeremy Grant, who has a player option for $36.4 million, and Donovan Clingan, who will be in the second year of his team option period, right? So when you sign a rookie contract, if you're picked in the first round at least, you get a guaranteed contract. It's a 2-2, which means you have 2 fully guaranteed years first off, and then you have 2 team option years. So in the third and fourth year of your deal, the team basically has to pick up those options. And if you're playing well and they want to keep you, they're going to pick up those options for the most part. So this team overall is pretty young. It's not like the oldest guy on this team is Jeremy Grant, who's 31. DeAndre Ayton's a great piece as well. He's under contract for next season. I like Robert Williams. I just think he hasn't been the same since he had that injury. Once, he got traded from the Celtics and he had that injury, he basically missed the entire season last year, or most of it. And like Matisse Thybulle, also a great player. He's 28. He's one of the older guys on this roster. I like Duop Reith, who was an undrafted player they picked up. He had a lot of really great moments last season, hasn't done as much this season. And Toumani Camara, who a lot of people have been talking about. He came over, before he even played for the Phoenix Suns. He got drafted by the Suns in the second round of the 2023 NBA draft and got sent over to the Blazers before even playing a game with them. He was a part of the Damian Lillard trade that also brought DeAndre Ayton from the Suns to the Blazers. And he's been a really great defender. He's just played his role very well, and he's improved offensively as well. He's averaging double digits so far this season. And I like Chris Murray. That was a guy that they picked in this past year's draft, and he's the twin brother of Keegan Murray, who's had a lot of great moments for the Sacramento Kings. Hasn't been playing as well this season, but So there's a lot of potential, right? Shaedon Sharpe, 21 years old. Donovan Clingan, 21 years old. Scoot Henderson, 21 years old. And Anthony Simons is 25. So there's a lot of potential for them to grow. They're not really that bad in terms of their overall record, right? They're 28-39 right now. If the draft was today and the season ended and there was no lottery, they'd be picking 9th in the draft, which is a good pick for them. I think, if they were picking outside the lottery, it was going to go to Chicago. And I think that's the case for the next 2 years or so. And if it falls outside the lottery, it's going to go to Chicago. If it continues to be a lottery pick for the next couple of years, I think it turns into a second-round pick in 2028 or something like that. So it might be in their best interest to also be, outside the playoffs next season, but we'll see what happens. But what I mean by they need an identity, which I kind of mentioned earlier, is that they need to just figure out who are the stars of this team. How do you want to play, right? Because it seems like it's kind of like a free-for-all, right? Like I said, they have all these young guys. They're a young, up-and-coming team. But they need to figure out who is going to lead this team, right? It's going to be Anthony Simons. It's going to be Shaedon Sharpe. It's going to be Deni Avdija. Who is going to be the leader of this team? That's one thing. And alternatively, I think they have to figure out what's going on with their, I don't even want to say older players, because I really mean just Jeremy Grant and DeAndre Ayton. Are these guys sticking around? Everyone was kind of confused when the Blazers picked Donovan Clingan 7th overall in this past year's draft, because it was all right, well, you have DeAndre Ayton, so it seems like you're now going to have Donovan Clingan, and, respectfully, they're going to bring up Clingan behind Ayton until they're ready to be okay, Donovan, you're going to, start and be our full-time center, right? And he's genuinely progressed pretty well through the season, and I think he's playing more and more now. Earlier on in the season, he really was not playing. And, I think DeAndre Ayton is a guy with his contract expiring, after next season. Maybe in the offseason they look to trade him and see what they can get back for him. I think a lot of people hate on DeAndre Ayton. I think he's a very solid player, former number 1 overall pick in the 2018 NBA draft. A lot of people, always say he's a bust because, Luka Doncic got picked behind him and all this. But respectfully, DeAndre Ayton went number 1. Marvin Bagley went number 2. And then Luka Doncic went number 3. So DeAndre Ayton has done a lot better for himself than Marvin Bagley has. And that's no disrespect to Bags. I love Marvin Bagley, but he has not been worthy of that number 2 overall selection. But he's still a solid player. Scoot Henderson is another topic that I want to address, because so far this season, he's only started 9 games, right? And this was a guy that people thought was going to be drafted number 2 by Charlotte instead of Brandon Miller, which I'm sure Charlotte fans are very happy that did not happen, because Brandon Miller is a stud. Dude is just raw, so good offensively, and has a lot of confidence. Scoot Henderson does not play with that same level of confidence. He does not play with that same level of offensive talent. And that's not to say that he can't improve, but he's very athletic. He's very strong. He's a big point guard, even though he's only 6'2" or 6'3", which is still very tall for a point guard. But he's just built. He's very strong. And I just think the offense is the question for him, right? Everyone knows he could play defense. He's averaging over a steal a game. He just needs to figure out, can he be a guy, can he be the guy that's driving into the paint and bullying guys, right? Can he be a post-up guard? There's things that he can use his, natural gifts, in his athleticism and his strength to benefit him. And I feel like he's not really utilizing yet. And it takes a little bit of time for players early in their career to really figure out how they can use their strengths to their advantage, right? A lot of players just try to play and they're not playing to their strengths. And I think that's something that Scoot Henderson needs to figure out. I do think him being coached by Chauncey Billups is a great fit. I do think, the guards on that team are going to continue to improve a lot. I was hoping that Shaedon Sharpe was going to have a bigger jump. He's jumped up a little bit, but not a lot. So I'm hoping that big jump for Shaedon Sharpe comes from this season to next season. And I think that's really going to set the Blazers aside, really. That would be the difference between them, where they're finishing this year and becoming a play-in team, right? Because in the West, to be a play-in team, you're basically a playoff team in the Eastern Conference. You know what I mean? there's plenty of teams in the West that should be in the playoffs, but the competition is just so dense, and the competition is it's just so active. There's so many different teams that are competing every single season in the Western Conference, at least for the past couple of years. So they're going to need more than just a jump from Shea and Sharp probably, but I think that would get them into the play-in conversation for sure, right? If you have another big jump from Denny Avdia, you have another big jump from Anthony Simons, maybe you trade Jeremy Grant, maybe you trade DeAndre Ayton, and you get back some, draft capital, you get back some younger players, you get back some good role players. You need good veteran leadership too. And not that Jeremy Grant is not a good vet to have, but, he's also had a pretty significant decline from last season. He was averaging 20 plus last season. He's averaging 14.4 points per game this season. Same with DeAndre Ayton, 14.4 points per game this season. He's averaging double-digit rebounds at 10.2, but they've both missed time. DeAndre Ayton's basically been out for a month now. Jeremy Grant has had injury troubles. He's probably not going to play in their next game. It's just, they need to figure out what's going on. And while these players are still young and they're growing, you need to get them to a place where they have good veteran leadership and they know what direction we're trying to go in. And everyone needs to buy into that, message, I guess, right? So I don't know what's going to happen with the Trailblazers, but I really do think they need an identity. They need to figure out what they're doing. They have a lot of good pieces, and they just need to figure out how to utilize them while they're still young and growing, because that's the best way that they're going to advance their team and continue to improve their talent. So that's all I got for you guys. Let me know what you think about the Portland Trailblazers. If you're a Blazers fan, let me know what you think in the comments. What do you think about all of the young players on the team? What do you think about where your team stands so far this season? What do you think about the upcoming draft? I want to know. So please leave some thoughts down below, and we'll connect, we'll link, we'll build, all that. That's all I got. So take care, guys. Stay safe, handle business, stand on business. Peace.